Hello there everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joesephyr and welcome to another Should You Pull video for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. In today's video we're going to be discussing Reno, who is a fan favourite for a lot of players out there, and I mean a lot, and his kit and the stuff that he's going to be bringing along to the game, being a brand new character, as well as discussing his very challenging Lufenia mission that a lot of people have kind of been dreading for a while. So if that's all stuff that you guys are interested in, then of course stay tuned and keep on watching. As always guys, don't forget to check out all of my social links in the description box below. On Twitch this week I'm obviously going to be challenging Reno's Lufenia, doing a few bits and pieces pulling wise for Reno, we'll see how that goes. And also on the same day I'm going to be starting the second part of my Final Fantasy count up in Final Fantasy 2, because we're all done with FF1 now. So if you would like to come along and join me for that, it would be great to see you guys. And then on Sunday I'll also be playing some FF14 with the 5.4 patch that's just come out. There's a lot of exciting new stuff to look at. So definitely come along and find me on Twitch if you would like. On Patreon, obviously I shout out one of my patrons every time I release a video so that I can give my thanks to each person individually, and today that person is going to be Random Hero 80, who is a Gladio fan. So thank you very much for your support, and if you're interested in getting a title card just like Random Hero has here that's custom made just for you, as well as other benefits like voice chats with me and being involved with the Would You Pull sections of these videos, then perhaps consider becoming a patron yourself. Of course, don't forget to check out all of the websites that are surrounding me with regards to Opera Omnia, and of course all the other content creators just down below me, and so you can check those out as well as myself. So first things first, let's go and take a look at the banner itself by way of DissidiaDB.com and having a look at the various things that Reno has to offer with his brand new kit. Now if you didn't catch my last video on pulls with regards to Camlanaut, I do just want to quickly say again that there were some mistakes made during my Camlanaut Should You Pull. Nothing too massively out there, but it was a reworked version of Camlanaut that I was reviewing at the time, so I do want to apologise if there was any misconceptions made there, and I will be making a lot more research into like which bits are reworked when, so that I don't make that mistake again. Now, the banner itself is going to contain Lightning's Burst, Reno obviously with his EX, his LD is 15 and his 35, as well as Rosa and Leo for their EXs. Now, you're not going to really be pulling on this banner for Leo and Rosa, being relatively old characters that don't really bring anything new to the table at this point in time, but Reno is quite an interesting character. He is like a defensive debuffer that also happens to be yet another Thunder Enchanter, which can work to your advantage by way of debuffs that are quite unique and different to any other character. Now his skill 1, Electroprod, is a weird one in terms of its hits, so once you've put everything into, like, you know, his C55, his 15 CP weapon, etc. It is a 3-hit AoE Thunder melee attack, bravery attack, followed by a 2-hit single target melee brave hit attack, and then an HP attack that does 50% splash damage to all non-targets. And the thing that's unique with this one is the numb debuff. So basically it inflicts numb to all enemies, which reduces their physical attack and defense within a frame debuff, but it also has a weird effect where if the target that has numb tries to attack you with a physical attack, they are delayed by 2 turns. So if you're up against enemies that predominantly or exclusively use physical attacks, then this debuff can actually prove really nasty in the right places. Then with his skill 2 you have Electric Dance, which is a single target with all of the buffs and everything. On top of it you get more hits out of it. You get 7 hit uses of this in total, where it's a 4-hit melee brave HP attack followed by a 6-hit melee brave HP attack, also Thunder Elemental, that gives you a framed buff called Turks Strike Captain, which ups Reno's attack, max bravery, and it gives a thunder enchant effect as well. So basically, and this also unlocks his brave attack plus and his HP attack plus, but he gets a plus off of his EX plus as well. That's a lot of pluses to say in one sentence. So his Electric Dance is predominantly a damage dealing attack, whereas his skill 1 is more about inflicting that framed debuff. Reno also obviously gets a C65 attack, which in this case is Debuff Act Long Slash. Never like the names of the C65 attacks in this game. They're all very long-winded and not very descriptive, or too descriptive in some cases. But this is a 2-hit Brave HP attack, so it's an actually damage-dealing attack, which is kind of nice, and it extends with the C70 and the Bloomstone and everything. You get 2 uses of this, and it also adds 2 turns to any debuffs that have been inflicted by him, and it also raises his max bravery a little bit. So then moving on to his EX weapon. Now his EX weapon, but the primary focus of this one is in peril. And basically you get the Turk-Light debuff, which reduces their attack and defense again, and also gives them Thunder Imperil. So if you're looking for someone with Thunder Imperil and Enchant, then Reno might be your guy, although there are quite a lot of Thunder Enchant Imperilers now, including Raijin, Garnet. Lightning can do it for herself. There's a lot of Lightning Imperil enchant around there. But when you start factoring in everything that goes to like his EX Plus and everything like that, it basically becomes a 12-hit AoE Brave HP attack with 100% AoE HP damage to each target. So it hits really quite hard, even if it does only have 1 HP dump, which in this day and age is like, it's fine because he's still going to hit, pretty much he's going to hit cap every time when he uses this. It's not the fastest recast rate, it's a slightly slow one, so you're going to get this after like a skill or like 2 skills or a skill and a couple of HP pluses. It's not super quick like some of the ones that we've had. But if you stack Turk-Light and his Numb debuff, it actually works really well against specifically physical attacking enemies. You start the fight with Turk Strike Captain up, so you get his HP plus and HP plus plus and Bravery Attack plus plus, and obviously the benefits of the Thunder Enchant as well. And it is all start with Turk Light inflicted on them as well, so you get the Thunder Imperil off the start as well, which is really nice. His HP and Brave Attack Plus are kind of standard to this point. Like his HP Plus Plus is a 3-hit Thunder Brave HP attack with a bit of Brave Overflow. It's nice, but nothing that Reno has brought along so far, apart from the Numb debuff, is all that like, oh my god, I have to have him. His LD, however, is actually very unique, and it's very good. It's actually closer to something like Gladiolus than it is to a lot of other characters, but it does this by way of a very unique debuff instead of a buff to your party. So it's a 8-hit AoE Brave HP attack with, again, 100% HP damage to everything, which is great. And it dispels a single buff, which doesn't sound like much, but it means that you'll always be able to get this, or like get this pyramid debuff on. And the pyramid debuff itself is a unique debuff that only lasts up until the enemy does a brave attack, HP attack, or inflicts a debuff. And basically what it is the enemies that are inflicted with pyramid can't deal damage, can't inflict debuffs, like they can't deal bravery or HP damage, and then the debuff leaves. So it's like paralysis, but they still get to act. So basically it's meant to combo with his Numb debuff, so that yes, they can act, but they're not going to do anything with it, and they're going to get delayed for trying to. So basically this is similar to Gladio's perfect defense buff that he gets, in that you're going to try and save this to save yourself from a particularly nasty attack that you just don't want to have to deal with. And this comes into play a lot when it comes to his Lufenia mission, and actually the couple of Lufenias after him. If you're really scared of like this gauntlet of nasty Lufenias we've got, so Reno's own Lufenia, Sephiroth's Heretic mission, and then Kieran after it, which are like the trifecta of nasty Lufenias, then Reno does help quite a lot just through Pyramid alone, and the Numb debuff does help a lot as well. So the best way to look at Reno is just, he is a debuffer. He is a defensive debuffer. He lowers attack, he does lower defense as well, which is helpful, and he has the Enchant Imperil on him. But he does so in a different way to, say, Desh, or like if you have characters like Desh and Gladio, then Reno's not nearly as mandatory as some other characters are. But his unique debuff does give him quite a lot of merit, and given what a fan favourite character he is, I imagine there'll be a lot of people who pull for him regardless of what he does. Then to round up the kind of look into Reno, Reno obviously has a cool ability this time around, and it's actually pretty good. It's his Electroprod attack, which again is 3-hit AoE Brave Attack, and then single target 2-hit Brave HP, which deals 50% splash damage to the other targets, and it also inflicts the Numb debuff, and it's for 4 turns as long as you've got the C80 or everything like that on Reno. So you might consider bringing Reno along just as a cool ability to certain things, because the Numb debuff is actually really strong anyway. It lowers defenses, it still brings along that delay, like as and when you might need it. So if you're not using Reno, then you might consider just bringing him along for that. If you only manage to complete half his kit, you don't get his LD or whatever, then there are reasons to bring Reno along regardless. Now, Reno's artifacts, he's going to want attack. Everybody wants attack, let's be honest. And he has a C50 that raises his max bravery and attack. Fairly simple going. In terms of his armor is the really cool one that that lowers all stats. So this is something that I did make the mistake on when it came to reworked armor with Camlanor. This one is like, it lowers the defenses or attack and defense of the enemies by a smaller amount than was shown during the Camlanor one. So I just want to reiterate that again. But it's still useful, and to know that it's going to get reworked into higher percentages later, and that he's going to get a better version of his like Hell Bravery and HP damage dealt is really nice. But it's not quite as high priority as say Lightning would be, or Kuja or Kurasame. Reno's armor is really nice, and if you've got a surplus of it, then you might want to consider going for it. But I personally wouldn't, because I think that Reno kind of lasts really well for a certain period of time and then drastically falls off. So he's one of those characters that I think people will use because they like him. But over the course of the next couple of months, there will be other characters that kind of come in and step over him. So now let's talk about the event that comes along with Reno and his Lufenia mission. Now, I've said this before, and I've told people to prepare for this point in time, because this is one of the nastiest Lufenias we're going to see for a long time, as are the two that follow it. This is a gauntlet of Lufenia missions in Reno, Sephiroth, and Kieran's events that people are actively preparing for. Reno is a great choice for his own event, obviously, as he is for the next two missions. So if you, like I said earlier, if you are afraid of that, then you might be a reason to pull for him. But the Castle Guardians are, of course, a variant on Soul Cage. Now, every time we've ever fought Soul Cages in Dissidia Opera Omnia, it's always been a nightmare, and these guys are no different. The first thing I'll mention is that they are immune to HP, attack, disable, and terror, and its variants as well, so you're not going to be bringing along Arciela, Kefka, or El Nash in this particular fight, which is really unfortunate. And basically, the Lufenia orb itself is honestly the least of your worries. The Lufenia orb I will touch on, because you do have to stay aware of it, of course. It appears at the start of the fight up until they go under 80% HP, and then it reappears at 50% HP until the enemies are dead. The orb is frozen as long as the enemy has 3 or more debuffs on them. So, depending on the characters you bring along for this, now I've put a mid-Italian in my sort of recommendations here. You know, you're going to be able to keep on top of that. Like, it's fine. So the orb is something that you need to be aware of in this fight, but it's far from the scariest thing there, as long as you're bringing along characters that can deal with it. So the Castle Guardians themselves are really nasty with their regular attacks. They have their Woodhorn attack, which is a huge single target delay, so you've got to be very careful of that. They have debuffs on most of their attacks, they regularly HP attack you, and they have a really nasty recast attack that dispels your party's buffs entirely. And honestly, these are just their regular attacks. Like, their actual mechanic, which is the nastiest thing they've got, is that they are at their worst when they put up a fog. Obviously, if I haven't mentioned it already, there are 2 of them in the fight. Now, the fog will arrive at different HP thresholds, and if you kill one of them and not the other. So it's like an enraged mechanic as well. So it arrives at 80% HP, so just after the Lufenia Orb leaves, 50% HP, so just after the Lufenia Orb comes back, and then at 30% HP. So this gives them bravery and HP damage reduction, like a heavy bravery and HP damage reduction, as well as an HP poison aura, so you're going to be taking HP damage every turn while this fog is up. And the first thing that I will mention here is to take advantage of the fact that we have the HP percentage display. Look at how much damage you're dealing to the enemies and make sure you keep them at least as even as possible so that you're able to capitalize on the timings of when they get their fog. Because if they get their next turn and attack while they have the fog up, they will use an enhanced version of their attacks that hits very, very hard and removes all of their debuffs, which means that the orb is going to begin to count down again unless you deal with that and reapply your debuffs pretty much instantly. So, you have a few ways of dealing with this, but the reason this mission is as hard as it is because it calls for very specific characters. So your only real choices of dealing with the fog as such are to either paralyze the enemy, so that's like Shantotto or Raijin or something like that, or put it to sleep, so Edward. You can use Reno's Pyramid debuff, which is obviously the primary focus of Reno within this mission, or you could just tank the hits with Gladio's Perfect Defense and then reapply the debuffs as quickly as possible. So the recommended team that I have here is Lightning, Gladio, and Mid-Italian, and this comes from a video that I watched from Feanifus, who very cleanly sort of beats this using this team by using a Mid-Italian to kind of control the turn order, make sure they don't get their recast gauges up too quickly, up until the point where they have their fog, and then you stop delaying them because you don't want them to have the aura of HP and damage reduction too long, and then let Gladio take the hit, and then just reapply everything with a Mid-Italian again. All while Lightning is just bashing their heads in. It's really important as well to bring a very hard-hitting character with you. There isn't going to be one that's better than Lightning for this, because they're weak to Thunder, for a start, because it's a Reno mission. Of course, they're going to be weak to Thunder. And Lightning is the current kind of pinnacle of damage dealing, and these guys have huge defenses, so you're going to need the hardest hitting characters that you have available to you. Otherwise you're going to either run out of turns or run out of skills to the point where they just turn around and kill you. In fact, if you want to start strong, a common strategy I've seen for this fight is to bring a Lightning friend unit along to complement your own Lightning, and start with the friend Lightning, replacing your own straight away, like at the start of the fight, using the LD to get the Saviour of Souls buff, then the burst so that you've got the extra HP damage, and then you've got the Imperils and everything, and then just LD 3 more times, because obviously you get the break each time, so that you've got a nice long set of turns, including your own Lightning on the return, that's going to be able to get you a big chunk of damage at the start, and then you start with a really good head start. Obviously this does mean that you can't then use your friend unit later, but it is a common strategy that I've seen for this particular fight. So while this is challenging, it is doable. You just have to make sure you have the correct characters in order to disable the orb, so you've got to be able to make sure that the debuffs are always there. You've got to be able to stop them from getting their missed attacks off, so making sure that they're either paralyzed or asleep, etc. And you've got to hit them as hard as physically possible. So it's strict, but it's certainly not impossible. So now we come to the big question of the video, of course, which is, should you be pulling on Reno's banner? Now, you're not going to be pulling on Reno for his banner mates, that's for sure, unless, of course, you still want Lightning's Burst, and you've got her LD and everything, and you're not all that interested in Camlanor. This is going to be a great place for you to pick up some Lightning stuff, or Thunder element stuff, and then Reno is actually very useful across the 3 nasty Lufenias that we're going to be having over the next few weeks. So if that actually frightens you, then Reno is a character that you can use in all 3 of them, but he's not the only option. There are other characters that you can use as well that are going to be useful for these particular fights as well, such as Lightning, Kurasame, Strago, Vivi. There are other characters you can use, but if you want a character that's kind of like a blanket, ease the burden of the next few Lufenias, then you could pull here. I will never ever recommend like pulling for a character just to clear one Lufenia, but because this particular kind of band of them is so nasty, then it is something that people could consider. I also really like Pyramid. Like, Pyramid is actually a really good move in that it compounds like certain other things because it's completely unique and there's nothing like it. Like, Gladio's Perfect Defense and this makes an absolute blockade. It's really hard to get past this for enemies because they're able to do everything that they're meant to do. They just can't hurt you with them in any way, shape or form. So, and the fact that you can stagger one after the other, and then maybe you've got a character like Lightning that's just delaying things and keeping them under control. You get a really, really strong controlling board from just having Reno available. So he is actually very good. However, Thunder Enchant Imperilers are kind of everywhere at the minute. Like, you have Raijin, you have Garnet, you have Desh, you have Lightning to herself, and Lightning only needs to do it for herself. So, if you don't feel the need for another one, like Raijin or Desh, who are also like defensive support-based characters that happen to do some really nasty debuffs, then you don't need Reno. Like, Reno's really cool, but you don't have to have him. And if you want to take the opportunity to save for, like, Rude, because Rude, depressingly, kind of kicks Reno to the curb in terms of, like, the number of people that want to pull for him, and then you've got Cloud straight after him, you could take this opportunity, because a lot of people didn't pull for Camlanaut last banner, a lot of people, or like some people may not choose to pull for Reno here, and there's going to be future events as well where people don't pull as well, so you might want to take an opportunity to regain some resources after the gauntlet that was Gladio and Lightning. And honestly, Sephiroth is next week, and Sephiroth is a weird one in that a lot of people probably won't pull for him based on his kit now, but then a lot of people are kind of saving him for him because they know he's going to be really good later, because his rework actually turned out to be very strong. So you could consider saving up for him then. I mean, there's free pulls all over the place, because you could also kind of save for like banners that are coming out in the next couple of weeks and then kind of come back to this. But you've got options, and I think that Reno's a character that you pull for if you had a lot of resources. But if you're kind of struggling for resources, then he's kind of safe for you to like not necessarily go all in on. So now it's time for Would You Pull, the section of the video where you, the viewer, can take a chance to let everyone know whether you would or wouldn't pull on any banner and give your reasons why. Now, of all the patrons that I've asked this time round, I realised that Reno was a popular character. I did not realise quite how popular he was, as vast majority of the comments that I got when it came to Reno was, yes, I'm pulling for him because he's my favourite character. Now, I did not realise quite how popular he was until this point, but obviously a lot of people are pulling on him just because of who he is, and that's totally valid. But in terms of the actual numbers, 69% of people said yes, they were going to pull on this banner with tickets, 23% of people said yes, they were going to pull on this banner with gems, and 9% said no, they weren't going to pull on this banner at all. Now, like I said, 90% of the comments that I got were just like the comments here that DJ Laws has, where he says, I'm going to use tickets on this banner, I like what Reno provides, so I'll pull for his kit, plus I'm a fan of the Turks and we'll go for both Reno and Rude this month. Like I said, everyone loves him, which I'm like, he as far as I'm concerned, he's cool, I guess, but he's not my favourite character. I didn't realise quite how big a deal he was to a lot of people. Tyro says, I'm a fan of the Turks and will be going in with tickets, though may move to gems depending on how things go. I like the variety of turn manipulation and utility he brings, and I'm a sucker for such characters. And I do agree with that. I think that he brings a very unique kind of twist on the Enchant Imperial kit that like Raijin and Desha brought before him, even if like in some ways he has already been covered as a role. Zerilius here says, I have Thunder Element covered, so Garnet, Kryl, a character I completely forgot about, Edge and Raijin, and Shutdown units already, so Reno, as cool as he is a pass for me. Impulse X says, I chose Gems because this is the banner I planned to pull Lightning's Burst on, and I also really want Reno, because I love anything and everything FF7, and I don't really have an AD buffer that appeals to me like Reno does, and if I get his full kit before Lightning's Burst, then I'll just token it. It's pretty much what my plan is. Like, I don't have Lightning's Burst yet, and if I have a reason to save myself from 50 Burst tokens, then I'm gonna take it. So if I probably will throw tickets at this banner as well, even though, like, I mean, like, Reno's not a character I'm particularly attached to. I do think his kit is interesting, and I do think that he has something to offer that a lot of other players don't. Grayson Snyder says, I'll pull with tickets. I like Reno as a character, and his kit seems pretty interesting and fun. Plus, it would be fun to have him and Rude together, I presume he means Rude together on a team when Rude comes out. So, yeah, more people saying that they just love him. And then finally, Aurelia says, I voted no because I think I can beat the challenge quest in Lufenia without Reno. I have all other characters in the banner maxed, including Lightning's Burst, and I also don't have any particular strong connection to Reno. If I already had Lightning's Burst, this would be my answer to this. I do think that Reno is good, and I do think that he'll last for a little while, and he does ease the blow of the nasty Lufenia track that we've got going on at the moment, but I don't think he's as must-have as people who... he's going to be a must-have for people who love him. That's just fact. But if he's not a character you're particularly attached to, he's not a character that you have to go out of your way to grab. So that's going to be all for today's video. Thank you all very much for watching. Let me know in the comments why you love Reno, because apparently everybody does, and whether you'll be pulling for his kit as well. Also, if you want to read me to filth for the way that I pronounce Reno and not Reno, because a lot of people said that it was wrong, and I've checked, I'm fairly sure it's not, then let me know in the comments below for that one as well. Of course, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell for notifications on any further videos I might be making for Dissidia or Final Fantasy as a whole, and I will see you guys in the next video. So thank you very much, and take care. I will see you soon. Bye bye.